In the Concur Travel and Expense System, lodging expenses must be itemized before being added to an expense report. Itemizing an expense provides more detail by splitting it into multiple smaller expenses, in this case by day. Let's look at an example to see how this is done. Meet Heather. Heather recently got back from her trip to Atlanta, Georgia for a conference. She is reconciling her trip expenses and has already created her expense report by completing the report header. Heather used her travel card to pay for her lodging. She needs to add her lodging expense to her expense report for reconciliation. From within her expense report, she locates her travel card lodging expense and adds it to her expense report. Then she selects the expense from the left side of her screen and verifies the expense type is lodging rates. She uses the vendor drop-down to select her hotel. She leaves the Is Required Receipt Included drop-down to Yes because a receipt is required for this expense and it will be attached to the expense report before submission. She then clicks the Itemize button. Heather uses the calendar to enter her check-in date. Next, under the Recurring Charges Each Night section, Heather enters her nightly room rate and taxes. Her remaining charges differ each night, so she clicks the Save Itemizations button. Her nightly lodging expenses are now itemized on the left side of her screen. The right side of her screen indicates how much she still has to itemize for this expense. On March 8, Heather was charged for parking. She selects the parking expense type, enters the required information, and click Save. Tips, phone calls, and meals are all included in the per diem amount Heather will receive as reimbursement. However, she paid for these on her travel card, which means university funds have already paid the hotel for these expenses. So, she will mark these as personal travel charges so her per diem reimbursement is decreased by their amount. Uh-oh! Heather should have paid for the remaining expenses personally instead of charging them to her travel card. These also need to be marked as personal travel charges so her per diem reimbursement is decreased to pay back the university. She will combine all of these personal travel charges into one entry. She selects the personal travel charge not reimbursable expense type, enters the amount, and clicks Save. Her lodging expense is now fully itemized. She can tell because the new expense area appears on the right side of her screen. That concludes our video example of adding lodging to an expense report and itemizing the expense. Check out the links below this video for additional resources on this topic. Thanks for watching!